Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius, back with you. A little hiatus, but we're back now talking about our Gridiron Heroes tonight. Final preseason game for the 2021 season. We hope you enjoy the podcast today. Shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward. We're kicking off a little late today, and this is why you need a super producer. Because when the super producer isn't available, you kick off 10 minutes late because technical difficulties are a real thing. So shout out to Mike. Shout out to new friends of the show, Pete and Kim. Good to meet you guys. Hope you're listening up in Gaylord. Shout out to everyone who has supported the show and listened to the show. I appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to just cut a quick one tonight, talking about the preseason. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the moves the team probably will make relative to roster, and we're going to revisit my original thoughts on the season. Like where do they end up? Where do we feel like they're going to be when this whole thing is all said and done? I think that when they released the schedule, you got some optimism. What I think is legitimate optimism, but there's a reason this podcast is called the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. It's because I am an optimist. 3 preseason games didn't do much to dampen that. It is probably myopic anyway, but for what I think they are doing, where I think they are this year, where they are in the rebuild, I'm optimistic. There's not a whole lot that's going to get me to view this season as a downer, not just because of the name of the podcast, but I think it's important we have to understand what they're doing. So for people who are new to the show, every now and then I like to reset how the podcast works. I am not a journalist. I am not a broadcaster. I do not consider myself an expert. We started this as a fan podcast because I'm just a fan, right? There's a million people like me. I just shouted out a guy named Pete who I met recently who was a lot like me. Smart guy, understands the game, big fan of the team. Every day I saw him, he was wearing Lions gear, Lions hat. We love our team, but I don't have a desire to be objective. I am not obligated because of what I do for a living to generate callers or ratings. I just felt like it would be fun to do a podcast from the standpoint of just a regular fan. Mike likes to call me a super fan. There are other super fans, plenty of super fans. I just enjoy talking about this football team, like to my own detriment about this football team. And so that's the origin of it. Now, like I said, for those of you new to the podcast, anything worth listening to, a book worth reading, a story worth telling, has a protagonist, which I like to consider myself the protagonist of my own podcast. For this to be meaningful in the slightest, I need an antagonist. So it's important because throughout this podcast, I will reference certain people, to remind everyone who the antagonists of the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast are. They are, in general, the guy who thinks he knows more about coaching than every coach on the Lions staff. Largely because he's watched a lot of football or coached his son's Pop Warner team. There's that guy. There is a guy Mike and I loosely refer to as Dumbass Dan. And I say loosely because Dumbass Dan could be a woman. Yeah. But the centerpiece of this was a social media post from a guy named Dan that typified the really dumb comment of a fan who probably doesn't know as much as they think they know. They like to say outrageous stuff just to get attention, and they really, really post a lot of dumb stuff. So the one that set me off the most last year was from a guy named Dan. Mike and I affectionately called those people Dumbass Dans. So you will hear me reference Dumbass Dans. You will hear me reference that dude who knows everything. He could coach all 4 pro teams in both universities, in football and basketball, probably baseball, because he just knows that much. He's just a dude, by the way. It has nothing to do with sports. He's a dude who's a know-it-all. He thinks he knows everything. And everything he says you should listen to because he knows. Right? So I'll refer to that dude. And The biggest antagonist, and this group in general encompasses both of the first two dudes. It is the dude that calls sports talk radio. The people, 80% of the people that call sports talk radio, because inherently they are negative. These are the people that say Lions will never win until the Ford sell the team, or they use the term SOL, same old Lions. I don't specifically dislike anybody. I hate those people. The people I just described, I don't like at all. So as I go through this, and that's just a lesson. If you've listened for a while, you know what Dumbass Dan sounds like. You know who Dumbass Dan is. You've listened to the podcast last year. You know my propensity to disrespect on a severe basis callers to sports talk radio. Most of them, because I am one. I have. But most of them are these negative dudes who know everything, and they will jump on nonsense. Now, some of that is because that's what that industry breeds. That's what those guys who host those shows want. That's what they need. That's how they make money. That's how they do their jobs well. So there are times it will sound like I'm criticizing sports talk radio hosts, when in reality I'm not. They do their jobs very well. They know what they do for a living, and they're really good at it. And I'm not mad at them. I often don't enjoy what they do. I often don't enjoy them doing their jobs. But as we go through this, because like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about the game tonight. I'll jump down the rabbit hole a little bit and talk about some of the position groups, some of the players I think might be in trouble, some of the decisions they have to make, which isn't that big a deal because of the third thing I'm going to talk about, which is where they are, right? And I've talked a lot about this, and some people might be tired of it, but oh well, we're doing it again. So first, the game, 27-17, Colts win. It was as entertaining as a third and final preseason game could be. Understanding what preseason games in general are all about. They're not about winning. For me, they've never been about winning. If you're that guy who's going to call into sports talk radio on Monday and talk about the fact that they went 0-3 in the preseason, you're that dude, right? And you probably don't get it, or you're just that dude, right? Because preseason football, and I'm not educating. If you're listening to this podcast, you get this. I don't even need to do all this, but it's about a handful of people, right? Coaches need to scout. There are players who are trying to land a starting spot over a reserve spot. That's one group. There are players who are trying to land a spot on a roster. They want to be one of the 53 players on a roster. I'll talk about the 53 quite a bit. And then there are players who want to get themselves on tape, like get footage that another team might be able to look at. Because even if they don't fit here, there could be a place for them in the league, and they just may be squeezed out because of a numbers game. And I'll mention a couple of those guys. But preseason is really, in the case of where the Lions are, about scheme, learning each other, learning a new scheme, like literally getting to know each other. There are so many new players on this team. Getting to know your coach, getting to know a practice cadence. Young players need to learn how to be professionals. They don't know how to operate in a professional environment. They come out of college where things are structured for them. There's a lot more responsibility. So some of these guys, and I try not to use the word kids, but I guarantee I will, because I just do. I don't mean it disrespectfully. Some of these guys are learning how to be professionals. This is where our team is. If you're a fan of this team, and I presume if you're listening to this podcast, you are. This is where our team is. So the biggest thing is I want to level set us. And you don't have to agree with me, right? Where we are in the evolution of the team, right? Let's be smart about this. So when you look at this and you want to talk about the fact that they're 0-3, I'm not, because Flowers didn't play it down. Brockers, Romeo, Aquara. Those are our three best defensive players. How are you gauging the team that will take the field September 12th against San Francisco? How are you evaluating what that defense is going to look like when the three best players don't play? You can't. It's not even possible. Not only does it not make sense, it's simply not possible. So I'm not really getting into that. I tried to look at the scheme because if you're a fan of the podcast or if you're a listener of the podcast, you know the word I used more than any last year was scheme, specifically speaking about Matt Patricia's defensive scheme. I thought that the scheme set a tone, set a culture. And I think what's happening now is the same thing, but it's just different and better. I think the scheme I see from Aaron Glenn, I see an aggressiveness, and it could be what I want to look at. I don't need to remind you what the name of the podcast is. I wanted to see something different. I wanted to see something better. I wanted to see something more aggressive. And I see a lot. I saw pressure, and this was backups playing backups. So I'm talking about the scheme. So in my mind, I will say, instead of Austin Bryant and the end whose name just escaped me on the right side, if that's Trey Flowers and Romeo Okwara, instead of those two guys, how much better is that? I'm looking at the inside linebacker, seeing Derek Barnes make plays from the inside linebacker position, and seeing Pittman make plays. Shout out Wayne State. It's the scheme that I feel better about. It's the scheme that is impressing me and making me feel better, not necessarily the talent. Because while all these guys are NFL players, and I will always say that with a degree of respect, there are no bums. There are no bums out there. Guys that don't make the team can play football. Always keep that in mind. But they're building something here. And a culture is built in a way by the scheme, the types of players. You can criticize Dan Campbell and joke about kneecaps and all that nonsense. I don't have a problem with that, because I'm not trying to generate calls or crack jokes or be funny. I'm just a fan. And I hope everybody who listens likes the podcast. But I'm realistic enough to know that there is a group of people that would not enjoy this at all. And I'm okay with that, because I don't do it for them. I don't do it for that reason. I think the group that's underrepresented, there's a bunch of people like me. There's nothing special or unique. Well, maybe a little bit about how I look at the game. I think there's a lot of people. They don't all have podcasts because they have, other things to do. They don't all call talk radio. They have jobs and lives and kids. But I meet so many people, like my friend Pete from Gaylord, who I just met last week, who see the game similar to me, who enjoy talking about the game. We talked so much. And I think we all want the same thing, which is for this team to be successful, just for this team to win. And when that happens, and I say when, not if, when that happens, it's going to be special, right? So I am trying to enjoy what they're building. I don't care that they lost all 3 preseason games. I didn't care that much about the score tonight. I saw some things that I liked, some things I didn't. I am conscious that the 3 best defensive players didn't even play. There are cuts that they will make between now and Tuesday. They have to go from 80 players to 53. So they're going to cut, if Flint Northern math is correct, 27 dudes. All 27 of those guys will not be unemployed. Some of those guys will go somewhere else and they'll play. And they'll play well. They'll play well in spurts. They'll play well in games. Some of them may be really good scheme fits somewhere else. And they may have a good season. And the tendency of that dude or the sports talk radio moron is going to be to call in the sports talk radio the Monday after that guy that we cut has a great game for his team and evaluate Brad Holmes or Dan Campbell on that dude, on that one guy that they cut who had a good game somewhere else. That's not smart. In this case, we have to resist the temptation to do that. There's going to be guys that they release that are going to go play because they're looking at this from a larger scope. And if you have an option of, say, a guy who is young and has potential, who will be really good in 2 years, or a guy who can help you now. And maybe there's that question in the wide receiver room around Brashad Perriman. I know the linebacker situation. If you have a choice between Jelani Tavai and Anthony Pittman, what do you do there? I mean, we're going to talk about all that, right? So the cuts are coming. That dude is going to do what he's going to do. The sports talk radio guys are going to say whatever they need to say to get you to get pissed off and call in and be angry. I don't care what their preseason record is. I'm going to be honest. I don't care about the regular season record. I did a schedule show with my good friend Art Wright. Shout out to Art. That's my dude. And we both had outrageously cornbread predictions, right? And I'm not going to tell you. If you want to find out, go back and listen to it. But I think Art and I both agree. We don't care if they go 5-12 or 7-10 or 9-8. It doesn't matter. Not this year. The things we have to watch for this year are development. We have to see if the organization built an offensive scheme to fit Jared Goff's strengths. That's the only way we can truly evaluate Jared Goff to see if he's not just, if we need to spend one of our 2 number ones or our 4 number ones over the next 2 years on a quarterback, right? Jared Goff can make that moot. How good would it be if Jared Goff plays really well? Top 15. I'm not saying he's number 9. Gratuitous opportunity for me to mention how much I love Matthew Stafford. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for what we need. What if DeAndre Swift stays healthy and our running game is top 15 in the league? Does it matter that we don't think the receiving group is? I don't agree with that. I think the receiving group is young. If Tyrell Williams stays healthy, he will bring an element. Right. So I think that how it is important. I wanted to start off with the preseason doesn't really matter in terms of wins, losses, record, any of that nonsense. I'm not even sure the regular season this year matters. I think we need to look at what are they building? How are they building it right? We're at the foundation, people. The question really becomes, are they building this thing right? That's what I want. That's what I'm going to watch out for. That's what I care about. I want to see the building blocks. I want to see Penei Sewell get better. So I want to see Jeff Okudah get better. I'm camp Jeff Okudah. I'm camp Penei Sewell. And there are people who, after 2 preseason games, call sports talk radio and say Penei Sewell's a bust. I've heard that. I'm not making that up. That's that dude, right? That's dumbass Dan. You can't do anything about them. They're there, and they eat it up. And they call in to the afternoon show and tell the guy how brilliant he is, and they call Penei Sewell a bust. They call Jeff Okudah a bust. They ignore that he didn't have an offseason last year. They ignore his injury in camp, and they say he was a bum last year. We wasted a pick. Now, some of that is a need to continue to beat up Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. I guess I understand that. No, I don't. Sorry. I don't see any value in that at all. I think that it's important to think about, and you have data that can help you. You can go back and look at the first year of Darius Slay. He wasn't the $16.5 million top 7 or 8 corner that went and signed with Philadelphia. Not his first year. He was not. And he had a full camp. And I believe Jeff Okudah is about to get better coaching. I think Jeff Okudah had a legitimate OTA training camp summer. I think Jeff Okudah is a really talented young man who's going to be a really good. Now, if you're always going to say he was the 3rd pick, we could have had fill in the blank guy, fill in the whatever, then you're just that dude. I don't really care that much. So I think the first thing I wanted to cover, and I didn't intend to take 18 minutes to do it, is I think it behooves all of us, even the dumbass Dans of the world, to always baseline where the organization is. They're building. That's the best way to put it. We're at the foundation stage. So when you watch a game, and there will be games where they're going to get beaten. There'll be plays that are ugly. Maybe there'll be blowouts. I don't know. There'll be plays that will be, and you'll be like, oh my God. I'm telling you, it is a part of the process. It is an important part of the process. It will be used at times to weed out guys. It will be used at times to validate guys. What they're doing is building a culture. Joke about kneecaps and double shot espressos. I don't care about any of that. Understand and appreciate that they're at a building phase, right? And stay right there. Okay, so let's talk about some specific players. There'll be cuts. We don't know what's going to happen. We're not sure, but tonight's game I watched with an eye on specific players. And I thought if you geek out like me and you're watching this game in the correct way from the correct headspace, there were some interesting things, right? And there's some questions that are going to be interesting. Like the linebacker room. What are you doing there, right? I didn't see enough of Anzalone, but I know he's a good player from where he came from. And I know they like him. And I trust Brad Holmes that he fits. I like everything I see from Pittman, and Jamie Collins isn't going anywhere. The question becomes, what do we do with Jelani Tavai? And there are those people who just want him to fail so they can bitch about Quinn and Patricia. Okay. Okay. My understanding is that the kid did everything he could. He lost weight. He's trying to, the old scheme, the really, really crappy Matt Patricia scheme, uh, had a degree of size. You want big guys on the inside to do certain things. He fashioned it after what he did in New England, and they liked. And when I say big guys, I am coding slow, right? I'm being nice and not using the word slow. These guys have NFL talent, and in the right schemes, they can be productive. I think the scheme sucked, and I think Jelani Tavai fit that scheme. Ipso facto, he looked like he sucked. I think this scheme highlights, requires, demands speed. Watch Derek Barnes, speed, right? I think Pittman has a degree of speed. I think that's what they want, and I don't think the linebacker room is a finished product. I think it is. I think it is part of the evolution that there will still be work done. I would not feel risky in making a prediction that one of the two number ones next year will be spent on a linebacker. That's not a bold prediction or anything. That's pretty safe, right? But what happens in the linebacker room is going to be interesting. I think there are guys that I don't know how quickly. Maybe it'll happen like Monday. I don't think. I don't know. I'm not the guy who just says Tavai is gone. There are guys who are like Tavai won't be around after Monday. That's fine. I don't know because I don't get to see practice every day, and it sounds like I don't respect like sports talk radio guys because I don't. I think they get the same information that we can get. They reference the same things online that I read every day. They watch the same game I watch. Some of them have inside information, not to the point that I think anyone. And I'm not trying to be those guys. I'm not trying to be in the prediction game. I can't state clearly enough that the idea of this podcast is that I'm just a fan. I really love talking about this football team, and as it expands, the basketball team, the hockey team, and the baseball team. I love my teams, and so this one in particular should be interesting. I'm interested to see who ends up in the linebacker room, and don't rule out them signing some guy that got cut from another team because I don't know if this room is where they want it to be. The group is where they want it to be. Next group I want to talk about is the receiving group, and I'm actually excited. Well, let me be careful. My expectations were super low, and I think I might have been wrong. I think, and I don't mean because of preseason. Well, that's not true. Yeah, the preseason gave me some data, and I feel better. I feel better about this room. It lacks what we would all consider that superstar. We had Kenny Galladay last year, but I'm not doing the Galladay thing. I don't know that we've had a superstar since Calvin. I got to be honest. So, and I loved Marvin Jones, by the way. I don't know that anybody in that room is better than either of those guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'd take Marvin back in a heartbeat. What I do know is that Brashard Perriman's in trouble, and the way you get in trouble as a wide receiver is you do what he did a couple of times tonight: is you drop passes. Your number one obligation is to catch the football. I'm going to be honest, and everything is limited, right? Limited play. I like what I've seen from Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Quintez Cephas is just someone you can't give up on yet, and I think it's probably more than that. I like Geronimo Allison, and Tyrell Williams is going to be here. He is the take the top off the defense weapon, right? And short of him being hurt, if you don't realize that Tyrell Williams is your number one, no matter what you feel about that, Tyrell Williams is your number one. The conversation becomes around where does Brashard Perriman fit in relation to Quintez Cephas, possibly Geronimo Allison. Khalif Raymond's going to have a spot on his team for returns, if nothing else. And then you got to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they like this Tom Kennedy kid. And I really would like to do a whole cute little segment on white slot receivers. I love it, actually. It's kind of funny. Amendola and, those guys, Wes Welkers. It's funny. But Tom Kennedy might have a spot on his roster. So I think the conversation piece becomes Brashard Perriman. I don't know if he's struggling with an injury. I'm not sure. But there are almost always 2 or 3 guys where you find out they were released and go, oh, wait, what? Because when he signed, I had him penciled in as your number 2. Penciled in. And I don't know if that's the case. I don't know. I don't see Quintez Cephas every day in practice. Got an extended look at him tonight. I don't know. Geronimo Allison is liked and respected and has a resume. So I don't know what the decision is there, right? But I am curious for Brashad Perriman. I think a quick conversation on the backup quarterbacks might be in order. I don't know how serious the injury to Boyle's hand is. I have back from 2 years ago, and again, shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, Mike. Back when Stafford got hurt midway through what was his best season, we got a short view of what we called the Jeff Driscoll experience. And then we got a bunch of David Blau. And I don't know, something about him I liked back then, and I still like him. I hope they find a spot, right? You got to have 3 quarterbacks. Even if he's not dressing every Sunday, I don't mind. Now, I am of the opinion that Jared Goff's your quarterback, and he's going to be pretty good. So this is just a fun thing to talk about. I like the quarterback room. I do. I contend the offensive line is still going to be the strength of this team. I do like the defensive line, how it's shaping up. I think Penei Sewell is going to get more and more comfortable on the right side, despite the dumbass Dans out there who want to call him a bust already. I think Penei Sewell is going to be fine on the right side. I think Taylor Decker, after I criticized him a lot in 2019 on the podcast, came back with a solid year last year. I just don't have concerns about the offensive line. Health is the only thing. If Vaitai stays healthy, I feel like the offensive line is going to be really good, which bodes well for the running back room. It bodes well for Jared Goff. On the other side, the defensive backfield is young. I'm going to talk strictly corners because I have a disagreement with a number of people about Mike Ford. He might start as your nickel, although Corn Elder had a couple nice plays tonight. It might be, who do you want on the outside? I mean, Okuda is going to be on one side, whether we like it or not, and I don't have a problem with it. I assume Amani Oruwariye will be the starter on the other side. You got the rookie from Syracuse, Melanfantu, and they like this kid Parker. I might have mispronounced Ife's last name. Sorry. I think you can't say a position group is deep when they're so young. I don't dislike this group. I just think it's experience and they need time. I think we need to see organic growth from Jeff Okuda and Oruwariye. If those 2 guys just get better on a normal trajectory, get better, that group is going to feel pretty solid, right? I talked about Mike Ford because I don't know if they intend to have him as on the other side and Oruwariye as a backup. If he's going to be nickel, and Corn Elder is going to back him up. I'd like the talent. I like the potential of the talent of that group, but I can't ignore the age, the youth of that group. And then finally, like the defensive line feels like it's going to be right there with the offensive line, the strength of this team. And that's to me the most exciting part. The thing I'm most excited about is that I think the 2 strongest groups are on the line. I just think that Flowers, Brockers, Romeo, I think the 2 rookies, Anzarike and Ali McNeil, this kid Strong I still like. Austin Bryant might finally be healthy and coming around. I think you still have Penasini. I like the depth. I like the bodies on the defensive line and what they can do. I like it because I also like what seems to be Aaron Glenn's scheme. What I can tell, and that's what this might be. The guys that were there last year might have been pretty talented, but I think the Matt Patricia scheme never gave them a chance, never gave them an opportunity. That scheme still pisses me off. I'm still mad. I'm still mad about that scheme. I think the talent on this team and what appears to be a more aggressive. Now, there's going to be some man. I think there's going to be a lot of man, and there are going to be plays where guys get beat. Accept that now. I talked about how young the defensive backfield is. There are going to be plays where guys just going to get beat. That happens in man coverage. And it might happen a lot. In certain games, it might happen a lot. We play a certain guy who shall not be named twice. And it could happen, right? Devontae Adams is a pretty good receiver. So I'm not going to get caught up in that. What I need is pressure. I see aggressiveness that is putting pressure on quarterbacks. And I think that's the key. Those guys are NFL players too. They're going to make plays. They're going to make plays. That's the reality. If you can do everything you can to disrupt them, don't make it easy. The thing I hated about the scheme last year was it seemed to allow, particularly from the 20 to the 20, the defense to dictate the game, the defense to dictate the flow, like take what they give you. And that defense gave up everything between the 20s. It was easy between the 20s. I talked about it at length on many of those podcasts. That's why they were so long. I had to go over that scheme a lot. I think this scheme is going to take an almost opposite approach. We're going to do everything we can to disrupt you. And if you make a play and just beat us, we'll live with that. We'll live with it. And you're going to see busted coverages. At times when a corner thinks he's got help over the top and the safety's not there and some guy's going to be wide open. That's not bad coaching. That's not a lack of talent. That's about guys who haven't played together, communication, discipline, repetition. That's what that's about. When guys play longer together, they understand each other better. They learn the scheme better. This is new to a lot of these guys. So prepare yourself to occasionally see some of these young corners look like they don't know what they're doing. Because quite frankly, they don't know what they're doing. It's new. It's new. And think about your first day on your job, whatever it is you do for a living. Let's assume you're on your job for years now. Compare what you know now and how well you do your job now, whether that's movement through a facility, systems, passwords, the politics that you have to navigate of the people, just how to get there. Compare that to your first day, your first 3 weeks. That's what it's like. Compare how good you are now at a job you've had for a long time to how you were the first few days. You didn't know, right? It's very similar. This is a young team. This is a team that has not played together. This is a team with all new coaches, all new schemes. This is a process. And I'm still very happy with where it is and where it's going. But this is a process, make no mistake. So the last thing I want to do is revisit like some of the things we talked about earlier. The preseason should have some effect on what I think of the season. And it does, because I am a person driven by data. I am not someone who makes a decision and because of ego or stupidity or a frightening combination of the two, can't change my opinion. So sure, on the schedule release show, both Art and I said the Lions would go 9-8. And we both admitted there was a degree of cornbread. That process was us going through the schedule, evaluating the team they're playing, expressing that they're not that good. We could beat them. I don't think, I went back and looked at it. I don't think either one of us was really thinking about like where the Lions are in their building, the talent deficiencies they have, the new scheme, all the stuff I just talked about. We ignored that and just said, we can beat Pittsburgh, whoever it was, right? And we got 9 wins. I'm here to grant that was myopic. Now, truthfully, I don't care. Don't care. I could see a scenario where they're 5-12, and I won't be mad. I won't be that dude calling in asking for somebody to get fired, because you have dumbass Dan. He's going to do that, and the host on the sports talk radio show is going to support that. He's going to drive that. He's going to encourage that nonsense, because that gets people to call and that gets him ratings, and that's his job. And congratulations to him. He's going to support that nonsense. Right? I don't care if they're 7-10. I don't care if they're 9-8. And they make a wild card. Or I don't care. I'm not saying you shouldn't. We're all different kinds of fans. I don't think it matters. I shouldn't say I don't care, because that's probably not true. I would enjoy that. I would enjoy the heck out of them making the playoffs. It doesn't matter though. I'm not going to be upset if they don't because this is a process. This process isn't complete until 2 years from right now. When I do this podcast 2 years from right now, I'm going to have a stack of cornbread right here. Like I'm going to literally go buy a box of Jiffy. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to bake it. I'm going to cut it into evenly cut squares because I'm all about symmetry. And I'm going to stack them up just like in the logo. And I'm going to have a picture of blue Kool-Aid over here, just like in the logo. And I'm going to have them right here, all up in the camera. Like you're going to barely be able to see me. I'm going to have to look over the cornbread. But that's 2 years. That's 2 years assuming Brad Holmes is what he appears to be. And I think he is. Assuming Dan Campbell, I don't know what he is yet, right? It's tough for me to finish that sentence. Assuming Dan Campbell is, from a substance standpoint, what he appears to be. I don't care what he says. I don't care about the cute little phrases. If he goes out on Sunday and makes foolish game day decisions, yeah, all the cute little kneecap crap won't matter, right? This year it won't matter. Next year, it won't matter more because if I see the growth that I'm looking for this year, if we get organic growth from Jeff Okudah, if the offensive line gels and it's a top 5 line in the league, and therefore we have a top 15 running game, and Jared Goff is closer to the guy that went to the Super Bowl than the nonsense that Sean McVay is trying to convince us he is now. And yes, I have no problem saying I'm not a Sean McVay fan. I think he probably gets way too much credit. Players make plays, but I don't like the way he ushered Jared Goff out the door. And I fear that he might treat my favorite quarterback poorly. So I'm not a Sean McVay guy. I think Jared Goff is close to the guy that led that team to the Super Bowl, although everybody gives McVay credit. Jared Goff was taking the snaps and making the decisions and throwing the football. I am team Goff, clearly. And if he is what I think he is, and Williams and Swift stay healthy, and Jefferson or even the kid Craig, how did I forget his name? You guys all know who I'm talking about. Sorry. The rookie. The heck is Craig's last name? Whatever. You get some unexpected surprise gems from one of these rookies. Or even Igrebuke. One of these guys is really good. And Tyrell Williams stays healthy and plays like his potential suggests he can play. You sign him long term. Quintez grows organically, and your receiver room doesn't need a massive influx of talent. You can go sign one guy and turn that room into a really strong room. If you are able to land /draft /trade for a linebacker that raises the level of that room, and your young secondary grows, and next year, not the year that we're about to start, but next year, going into next year, you feel like you have a shot. That's great. That's great. The cornbread and Kool-Aid literal podcast is 2 years from right now. That's what it is. I think there's things they need to clean up. Dan Campbell talked about some scheme stuff, talked about cleaning up penalties, playing faster, playing quicker. They have a very deliberate process that they're being transparent about it. They're not trying to trick anybody or hide anything. He has to prove himself on game day by making the right decisions. This is not a tank. Don't give me that dumbass Dan stuff. This is not a tank. I think you will see them keep some young guys and let some veterans go, and you're going to wonder why. And the sports talk radio guy is going to okie doke you and say they're tanking for a better draft pick. Nope. They're not sweating that. They're not sweating what the Rams do. I'm not sweating what the Rams do. Sports talk radio guy wants you to call in and say, yeah, we need the Rams to lose because that pick is going to suck. Well, you don't know anything about the NFL draft if you think the 28th or 30th pick sucks. If you don't think that guy is an NFL player. I could run down a list of guys because in that scenario, you're suggesting second round players suck. Third round players suck. They can't be good, solid contributors. That pick will be in the first round. So by definition, it will be in the top 32. it is likely to be somewhere around 28 or 30, maybe even 32. The Rams are good. The suggestion that that pick is going to suck because it's at the end of the first round is so absurd. It's hard for me to hear. That player is going to be really, really good. I could run off a list of guys that were selected in and around that area to support this, but I'm not going to do that because dumbass Dan doesn't care. He just wants to fall for the okie doke, right? We don't need the Rams to lose. If they lose, they lose. We have no control of that. So it makes no sense to me to sweat about it or worry about it. I personally, because I am unapologetically a Matthew Stafford fan, would love for him to be successful. And I'm fine if that pick is 30 or 31. And it doesn't make me a dumb fan or less of a fan because I don't care where the Rams finish. Because I trust that Brad Holmes will take a guy at 30 or 31 and he will be a contributor to this football team. Because I believe some of the players, DeAndre Swift was a second-round pick, and we love him. Lamar Jackson was 30, 31, something like that. Won MVP. The nonsense that, the Rams pick isn't that valuable unless they lose a bunch of – no, the Rams aren't going to lose that many games, by the way. Sorry. The Rams are going to be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in football. You might as well accept that now. Now, if something happens, I'm probably not going to be happy because for them to seed us a top 10 pick probably means number 9 got hurt. And I'm sorry. He is the first ex-Lion that I'm going to continue to root for because I don't root for people or play. I root for jerseys in general. He is the exception. He is the exception. So I don't care about that. I believe Brad Holmes is smart enough to take a pick at 30. And if he wants, package it with his own pick at 8, 10, 12, wherever he is. If there's a guy up there who wants to move up, I think he's much more likely to take a player at 8, 10, 12. That's really good. Take another player at 30. That's really good. Or even trade out of that and get 2 players at 55 and 58 that are really good. That's my confidence level in Brad Holmes and how he does his job. And then I think that Deuce Staley, Antoine Randall, and Mark Brunell, Aaron Glenn, Anthony Lynn, and Dan Campbell are going to do a really good job of coaching players into a culture, coaching them into a scheme, and that's the key. So I don't buy they're tanking. I think they're going to take the best 53 for the process. Again, they might let guys go that seem better than guys they kept. Fine. I think there's moments where they're going to look really good. I think there's moments where they're going to look really bad because they're a young team. They're a team that doesn't know each other that well, and they're a team running all new schemes. Man coverage will get exposed, and there's talent deficiencies on both sides of football. I accept all that. But I do like both lines of scrimmage. I like the coaching staff. I like where they are in the process. It's tough, right? It's tough because cornbread and Kool-Aid, not just a name, it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy. And I want to get on here and tell you, I see a way they can make the playoffs. That'd be good. That'd be great. This isn't the best version of this team. The best version of this team is to come. If you like this squad right now, great. And I do, because I am baselining everything like I started the podcast with from where they are in the rebuild. I like where they are in the rebuild. If you like this team, you're going to really like next year's team. And you're going to love the team 2 years from right now. So I don't know if that makes it kind of a weak podcast to say, hey, still got 2 years before we can love them. I think it's going to be a fun ride. And I have said that all 4 teams will be a fun ride. That's what this is all about. So I think there's room for excitement. I think there's a reason to be excited. I'm looking forward to them as well as all the other teams. I'm looking forward to where the podcast is going to go. I hope you enjoyed tonight's podcast, even though we kicked it off a little bit late. Again, this is why you need a super producer. And things will go on time and technical difficulties and things like that won't take place. But I do hope you enjoyed it. 0-3 preseason doesn't matter. So dumbass Dan, get off of Twitter saying nonsense and referencing the 0-16 season. That is not important. Let's take some time, take a breath, and get ready for the Gridiron Heroes to kick it off. And it's going to be fun. I think we're going to enjoy this season. I think there'll be good days, bad days. I'm going to enjoy it. I look forward to the podcast going there. Look for a podcast next week. We're going to talk some Tigers. They're getting to. I think we might see some young guys. We might not. I'm going to touch on the Red Wing preseason because it's fast approaching, and we might even hit the Pistons again. So look for a non-Lions mid to late next week, and then back with the Lions on the 12th. Obviously, San Francisco. So we're going to start kicking in a high gear. Couple a week now to take off on the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. At Cornbread Pod on Twitter, obviously. I've been scrolling it. And check out the YouTube channel. Should be kicked off. If you want to watch this on the YouTube channel instead of Facebook, feel free. Hit us up on Twitter, good, bad, ugly. If you like it, you don't like it. I'm open to the concept that this thing can continue to grow and get better, and I'm looking for all recommendations. So if you've got something good, bad, or even ugly, knock yourself out at Cornbread Pod. Thanks for listening. Again, shout out to the super producer extraordinaire, my man Mike. Looking forward to getting you back, buddy. Shout out to my new friends Pete and Kim. And we hope you enjoy your night and your weekend, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.